Hello, and once again welcome to the Forest Fed Kitchen. Well, last week we started on a healthy kick with our protein balls and our fruit and oats bars, and today we're continuing that, and we're going to be making water kefir and a sourdough starter. So what is water kefir? Okay, well, in water kefir we use these grains, okay, but so water kefir is a composite of bacteria and yeasts that ferment sugar in a water solution to create a naturally carbonated beverage that's a very good probiotic. Excuse me, here we go. Okay, just had to get that technical side right. So anyway, so it's a probiotic drink that's carbonated and dead easy to make. So what do we make it with? Well, here you see, I don't know if you can see that very well, these are called Kefir Grains, okay? And you can just buy them online from various websites. In my notes below, I will add various websites where you can get hold of these, or if you know of a very good health shop, they sometimes sell the water kefir grains. You get milk kefir as well as water kefir, and water kefir is great if you've got any dairy intolerance. So basically, here there's about probably 3 tablespoons of water kefir grains. Mine have slightly multiplied since I started buying them. In the warm weather they're supposed to multiply more. Okay, so we have our kefir grains, and here, let's make sure that you can see that okay, it's just a cup of warm water, okay, and I've got about 3 tablespoons of white caster sugar. I would also suggest using a raw sugar, coconut sugar, but the white caster sugar is fine if that's all you have. And I'm just stirring it to help dissolve it a bit. And in there I'm going to add a teaspoon of molasses, because in molasses there's even half a teaspoon really. There's quite a molasses has really good vitamins and minerals. So we're just going to put that to one side and just basically stir it in. Now, let's just wait for that noise to go. Now, what I tell you about what will kill the grains if you use hot water. Don't pour hot water onto the grains. It's no good for them. So this is very tepid water. Okay, so I'm just going to pour that in there. There we go. So, and I would just use plastic. Don't use metal with the grains. And now another thing that you add to the grains in the water. So here I've got some freshly squeezed lemon juice. Should be about 2 tablespoons there. So pop that in. That's for flavour. And then a piece of lemon, just lovely fresh lemon, goes in there. And a fig. This is an organic dried fig. And again, dried figs seem to contain lots of minerals which are very good for the kefir. In that goes. And finally for this one, I've got some freshly cut ginger. Okay. And now I'm just going to top the jar up with some water. More water. Preferably filtered water or mineral water. Till about there. So all in all, you need about 3.5 large cups of water. But in my notes I'll put the exact quantities of what you'll need. So that's it. That's your water kefir made. Well, you just close that and leave it for 24 to 48 hours. When you buy new kefir grains, your kefir water will be better probably after the second time you use them, because they've got to get used to the environments, the type of water that you use, and so forth. So 24 to 48 hours, you'll start to see a fizz, and you might even hear a bit of fizziness going on there. And so that's the yeast building up, the carbon building up, and it'll be ready to drink. Now, I'll just leave that to one side. So over here, I've got kefir water that's ready to consume. Okay. Now I just wanted to show you what we do with this. So first of all, I'll just decanter it. Whoop, I could hear that. That's the carbon coming out. And it has a slight beery smell, but not too bad. It's got a better taste than what it smells. So use a plastic tea strainer or a sieve. Don't use metal, it's not good. Right, so here we go. And we're going to discard the fig and the ginger. Just going to, or put it on your compost heap. Okay, that's fine. So what I'll do later, I'll take all these grains out of the jar, make sure that I've got all the bits of ginger out, and then give the jar a good clean, and then start the process again, just like I've done here. Okay. Now we're just going to decanter it into a bottle. Again, in the notes below, I'll give you some ideas of where you can buy these bottles. So just do this carefully. What I would say, don't use plastic bottles. Once, before I had a chance to buy the bottles, I used a cheapy type plastic bottle. Well, it kind of exploded on me, and I had this carbonated beverage all over the kitchen floor. Bit of a disaster. Okay, so that's ready to have a drink. And it does taste lovely, it really does. But you can flavour them as well if you want. This one has been flavoured. So what I did with this, when it was made, when I decanted it, I popped some raspberries in. Just chop them in half, pop them straight in, and it's taken on the colour and the flavour of the raspberries. So you've got a fresh raspberry probiotic drink. You can't beat that. And you can go on using these grains over and over again, you know, as long as you look after them. What I wouldn't suggest is forgetting about them, because then they will lose their goodness. So, and also, if you make your kefir water and don't decanter it and drink it within 48 hours, it will start to get quite strong tasting and quite strong smelling. It's much better after 28 to 48 hours. You want it nice and fresh, and you need to keep feeding the grains with fresh water and fresh sugar to keep them healthy. And I believe for them to multiply, they multiply better when it's warm. So let's look forward to the warm summer and our grains can multiply. And then you can give them to a friend, you know, pass, share the joy of your water kefir. Okay, so I'm just going to get rid of this little lot, and then we're just going to do a quick demo on the sourdough starter. Okay, so right, now sourdough seems to be very trendy at the moment. I love it, and there's various ways you can make sourdough. In fact, this will be fine. Okay, so on my website there is a different recipe for the sourdough. I use rye flour, and it's a slightly different method, but I found the simplest recipe to show online today, and you can try it or try my recipe on the website. You know, it makes no difference. But today I'm just going to use flour and water. So I've measured 75 grams of plain flour, this flour's going all over. That's right, it's always good to do things on a tray. Okay, and here's some filtered water. Right. Okay, and basically I'm just going to mix this. So what some recipes do, and what I've done before as well, is use rye flour for the starter and then feed it with plain white. Could do with another spoon. There we go. Okay, leave that there. So there you go. So that's your starter, and I'm not going to put the lid on this one. I've just got a bit of cheesecloth here. I'm sure if you haven't got cheesecloth, you can use kitchen towel, you know. Basically, you want to cover it to protect it and let the air get through it. Now, this recipe that I've got in my notes below and I will put up is a non-yeast recipe. Okay, the recipe on my website takes fresh yeast. I love that recipe, but this one, I love it as well. I'm just a sourdough fundy at the moment. So there's your starter, and what we're going to do every day around this time, just feed it again. 75 grams of flour to 75 mils of water, and do that for about 4 or 5 days. And well, after, I don't know, 2-3 days, you'll see that it will start to bubble and start to smell slightly sour. So you're onto a good thing then. And then around about day 5 or 6, it doesn't really matter, you could make your loaf of bread. And the recipe, again, is on my notes. I will do a demo, but I'll do it pre-recorded because there's an awful lot of waiting with the proving. And you wouldn't want to wait hours just watching the bread prove. It's like watching grass grow. So I'll do a pre-recorded video, and if you forget to watch that, don't worry, you can just follow the recipe. All the notes are there. But what I do in my recipe as well, when I make the bread up, I put a great big handful of seeds, good combination of seeds, and it really adds to the flavour, makes it nutty, and seeds have got such a lot of goodness in. All the nutritionists will tell you that. So thank you so much for listening today, and I do hope you give the water kefir a go, and also the sourdough. And hope to see you again. But what we're going to do this Friday, oh, there's another video this Friday, Friday the 24th at 3 o'clock again. I'm going to be demonstrating making crystallized flowers. And these are alternative, you can use it as an alternative cake decoration. So if you've got any pansies in the garden, make sure for the lesson that you gather maybe 10 or so pansies. You'll need egg white and a paintbrush that you don't that's very clean, because you're going to be painting the flowers with egg white. And then I'll show you the process of how we crystallize these. So you'll have lovely crystallized flowers that we could use on some cakes next week. So hope to see you and have a lovely afternoon. Thanks everyone.